Well, Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
So my wife Lauren and I are excellent parents. Just ask us, right? And you might be excellent parents. Just ask you. Or if you were raised by excellent parents, you may have had excellent parents, and yet, I am absolutely confident that history is not going to remember even your best parenting ideas altogether well. My dad, when he was brought home from the hospital, he told me that his parents had him spend the first chapter of his life sleeping in a dresser drawer that was being raised in the whatever decade you were raised in. That was also the time when it was absolutely fine and looked forward to. Playing with the mercury in the thermometers. Does anybody here do that? Play with the mercuries? There you go. That was fine. I mean, look, really from the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, there were no such thing as helmets, right? Seat belts. Optional. You'd come home from school, your parents would send you on your way. So long as you were home by dinner, all was well in the world. And then in the 80s, everything about parenting changed, and we got so nervous. God forbid our kid had unstructured time after school. That's when we started signing them up for extracurricular activities, so not a moment of their little lives was unsupervised. And then you fast forward to the 1990s, and everything was a choking hazard. And then you fast forward to the 2000s, and your choking hazards had to be organic. And then you fast forward to the 2010s, and the smartphone is the best thing that you could give a child so that they could continue learning at home and keep up with their dear friends. And now, of course, we all know that to give a child a cell phone is to slowly poison them to death. You get the idea. Parenting changes, and it changes over time. And you can be an excellent parent. Am I right? And parenting is still not going to remember you well in the future. And I say this because we're going to look back. Actually, we're going to skip the moment of parenting that every rabbi struggles with on this day, the binding of Isaac. I feel like we can all agree this is not the best example. But I want to go to a later passage from the book of Samuel. Hold on to that name. This is from our Haftarah portion. Now, our Haftarah portion that we read tomorrow is about a woman, a desperate woman who is wanting to have a child, and she can't. And I know that for some of you in the room, that is your own desperate journey. This is a story in many ways for you. Her name is Hannah. And in her desperation, trying to have a child, she cries out to God and says, and I'm going to paraphrase, God, if you give me a child, I'm going to dedicate his life to you. And sure enough, she conceives. Sure enough, she has a child. She names him Samuel, after which the name of the book of the Haftarah, the book of Samuel, comes from. And as soon as he is weaned, call it 2 or 3 years old, Hannah, his mother, brings Samuel to the priest Eli, and there Samuel serves God, serves Eli, serves the temple for the rest of his life. So how come Hannah doesn't let Samuel choose? How come Hannah doesn't let her son choose what he becomes, who he's going to be? Does anybody here have overbearing parents? Don't raise your hands. But parents cannot be trusted to make even small decisions of kids' lives. This is why probably none of you have heard of a dating app called Just Kibbutz. Anybody heard of Just Kibbutz? No. Which is interesting because a couple of years ago, there was even a New York Times featured article about this. This app is this, well, it's a terrible idea. You're gonna see why in a moment. Where overbearing Jewish parents set up an online profile of their children, and then using the app, look at the profiles created by other overbearing parents of their children and try to make a shidduch. Right? Try to make them come together. You know why no one's heard of the app? Because it's a terrible idea. Because parents can't be trusted to even set up your child's online dating profile. And if parents can't be trusted for even a first date, how can Hannah be responsible for setting the entire course of her child Samuel's life? And that's a question that I'm asking, that we're asking. If you are a parent or if you are raised by parents who are of blessed memory to you, that becomes more and more true for me. the longer I am a parent and the more time I've been able to spend raising my children, what I've come to see is that even before they were born, and even before you were born, your parents made almost every important life decision for you. My wife Lauren and I, of the 8 billion people on the planet, we chose the one other person we're going to raise our kids with. Of the 196 square miles on the face of the earth, we chose roughly the 5 to 10 miles that our kids would call home. We chose them for them their country of origin. We chose for them their school. We choose for them, as much as we can, what they're going to eat. We've chosen for them their good and bad coping mechanisms. And actually, there are studies on this, which is so fascinating, that parents are, follow this, the leading indicator, not the only indicator, but the leading indicator for what kinds of education your child's going to receive, and even the level of income your child will have later in life. It is all decided from before you were born. Now, we Jewish parents are overachievers because we add a couple of things to the mix. And I'm going to share with you a few statistics. Roughly 17% of the Jewish community keeps kosher. Roughly 20% of the Jewish community comes to synagogue once a month. About 46% of the Jewish community will fast on Yom Kippur. But the statistic that gets me really interested is that 57% of the Jewish community visits historic Jewish sites when they travel. Now, I didn't believe this because I thought this was just my Meshuggah family. But just by a show of hands, who here has traveled somewhere not here and visited a Jewish historical site? Oh my God. You can't see this on the live stream, but this is almost all of you, which is an unbelievable thing to do. Because has anybody here been to Toledo, Spain? A couple, oh wow, okay, so go to Toledo, Spain, and all the non-Jewish tourists walking around looking at this UNESCO World Heritage, beautiful medieval city. The Jewish tourists are going to the Jewish Museum, where they just read about the pogrom of 1391 that killed 3,000 Jews. Why do we do this? Has anybody here been to Venice? A lot of you. Okay, so hands down, you go to Venice, you have this beautiful coastal view, and the Jewish tourists go to the first ghetto set up in 1516. That's what we see. How about Prague? Anybody been to Prague? It's a gorgeous city, hands down. Gorgeous city. Non-Jewish tourists are walking around the square, and you know the clock tower. The Jewish tourists are going to the Pinchas synagogue, where you read the 77,000 names of Jews from that region killed in the Shoah. Why do we do this to our children? The non-Jewish tourists are walking around the most beautiful sites on the planet with a gelato in hand and a smile on their face. The Jewish tourists are walking around with a gelato in hand, shell-shocked as to what we have just seen, as to what we have just, in our own way, witnessed as a part of the Jewish story. Why do we do this to our kids? And it's because we as parents, grandparents, uncles, aunts, teachers, mentors, you give your child the gift of identity, the gift of knowing who they are, the gift of being rooted in a time, in a story, in a place. Parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, teachers, you give your kids their roots. And for anyone who knows Jewish history, you know that the Jewish story goes back. It goes back before Toledo. It goes back before Venice. It goes back before Prague. It goes back before Russia and Poland and Germany. It goes back, so come back with me. Some 3,500 years to a time, to a place called Israel. And I want to talk about Israel tonight, but I'm not going to have a political prescription. I'm certainly not going to have a military strategy. God forbid, I'm just a rabbi. But what I do want to ask is a question. And this question is not my question. This question was asked by the editor-in-chief of the Atlantic magazine, Jeffrey Goldberg, who, over the summer, wrote an article titled Sinwar's March of Folly. I don't know if any of you read it, but the question, the premise of the article is essentially, why did Sinwar do it? Sinwar, the monstrous mastermind of the October 7th attack, why did he do it? He knew, so says the article, he knew that Hamas was not going to overthrow Israel. He knew that there would be tremendous death and destruction afterwards. He knew the mayhem that would follow, so why did he do it? And what the article taught me, and has been staying with me ever since, is that the idea animating so much of Hamas's terror infrastructure, and by the way, spreading throughout the world today, is this idea of settler colonialism. And I'm going to explain that to you in a moment. But just to be clear, this is, even though I'm explaining it, something that I profoundly disagree with. The notion that somehow, some way, Jews are agents of some European country. Forget the fact that millions of Jews are there in Israel from northern Africa, exiled in the 1940s. But somehow we are agents of a European country sent to do their bidding, to oppress, to extract, make some sort of territorial claim on their behalf. That's the notion. And if you and we are a people not actually rooted in this place, if we are settlers, God forbid, if we are colonists, God forbid, then all you need to do is make life harder, make life miserable, and somehow we will up and leave. And some version of this thinking has animated anti-Israel attacks ever since 1948 and even before. And yet, the problem that people who hold on to this idea face every single time is that there are more Jews today in Israel than ever before. And it's because we are rooted. It's because we are rooted. It's because if you want to know where Abraham bound his son Isaac, if you want to know where Hannah prayed to God to have a child, you can find those places on a map. And this cuts both ways, because I know this is a delicate conversation. Let me just say that you cannot, on either side of the conflict today, uproot a rooted people. You cannot uproot a rooted people. And this conversation is hard. This conversation is hard as a rabbi, as a cantor. This conversation is hard for you. And we've had conversations with people who are torn apart over the conversation happening with their children right now, over the conversation happening with their grandparents right now, over that conversation that happens around Passover Seder tables, around Thanksgiving tables, where over the past few years especially, Israel has become a source of such pain, of such strife between families, between people who love each other. And so I've got some bad news, and I've got some good news. Let's start with the bad news. There is no Facebook post you can send your kid that is going to convince them that your way of thinking is right. Kids, there's no TikTok video that you can send your uncle that he's going to write back and say, "Thank you, I never knew." You can save the time writing the 9-paragraph essay because they're not even going to open it. We are at a time and a place right now, and this is the bad news, where probably you're not going to convince even the people close to you that you are right and they were wrong. That's the bad news. The good news. The good news. The good news, let me tell you a story. Just a few months ago, and some of you were there, I was a rabbi on a panel. There was a conservative rabbi, there was the Reform rabbi, and an Orthodox rabbi. And someone asked a question from the congregation to us, and the question was this: how do I talk to my kid? How do I talk to my kid? It's such a source of pain and strife about Israel. And the conservative rabbi had his brilliant answer. I attempted an answer. But the Orthodox rabbi, with such kindness and humility and wisdom, took a breath. And he said, look, I wish that my congregation felt as passionately about Shabbat, about kashrut, about prayer, tefillah, about tzedakah, as they do about whatever strongly held and well-researched opinion they have about what's going on in the Middle East. I wish they had these other parts of their Jewish identity that they could add to their strong beliefs about whatever is happening overseas. I wish that for my community, and I wish that for you as we move into this new year. I want you to have a rich and a thick and a deep Jewish identity because you're going to pass that down. And I want to give you a little bit of language. I want to give you a little bit of language because I know that so much of mine certainly, Jewish identity is wrapped up in how passionately I feel about Israel. And I know so much of your Jewish identities can be wrapped up in how you feel about Israel too. And I'm not asking you to take anything away. All I'm asking you to do this year is to add. And as we add this year, I want to share a poem. And I want to share a poem that I first heard at my first conversion to Judaism here at Washington Hebrew. So I don't know if you know this, but Washington Hebrew does about 40 to 50 conversions a year, which, by the way, is a lot for people who doesn't evangelize. And as we embrace these new members of our community at the very end of the ceremony, what we have them do is take a Torah, stand before an ark, and read a poem. This poem that I'm about to share with you so that you can have language for how you talk to your kids, so that you can have language for how you talk to your parents and your grandparents. This poem was written even before there was a modern state of Israel. This poem, written by the late French poet Edmund Flegg, refers to Israel, but refers to Israel as a people, as us, as a body, as a community. So what we do with everyone who enters into their full Jewish identity is we have them take a Torah, which I'm going to do right now, and read this poem. They take a Torah, they stand before an open ark, and standing before the ark, embracing the fullness of their Jewish identity, they say, I am a Jew. I am a Jew because my faith demands of me no abdication of the mind. I am a Jew because my faith requires of me all the devotion of my heart. I am a Jew because in every place where suffering weeps, I weep. I am a Jew because at every time when despair cries out, I hope. I am a Jew because the word of the people Israel is the oldest and the newest. I am a Jew because the promise of Israel is the universal promise. I am a Jew because for Israel, the world is not completed. We are completing it. I am a Jew because for Israel, humanity is not created. We are creating it. I am a Jew because Israel places humanity and its unity above the nations and above Israel itself. I am a Jew because above humanity, image of the divine unity, Israel places the unity which is divine. I want you to have more language this year. I want you to have Israel, and I want you to have other things to talk about. Because for 2,000 years, we've had a thick and a rich and a deep Jewish identity, and your kids are listening to you. There are so many people out there who are trying to tell your children that to be a Jew is tantamount to being whatever awful word the internet just came up with. To be a Jew, they'll say, is to be a communist. To be a Jew is to be a fascist. To be a Jew is to be all of these things. But your children are listening to what you have to say. And I want you to tell them what being a Jew means to you. And if you don't have the words yet, this is the year I want your Jewish identity to grow. This is the year because your parents, your grandparents gave you the gift of knowing who you are. Your parents, your grandparents told you that you are a Jew. Your parents, your grandparents gave you the gift of Jewish identity. Your parents, like Hannah, gave you identity. And this is the year I want you to grow it. This is the year I want you to deepen it. This is the year I want you to pass it down with pride. Shana Tova. Shana Tova.
journey that we can